Hey guys, welcome to Miss Rachel YouTube channel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So to start with you, please tell us your name, where you're from, and where you are now.
I'm Suzanne Elizabeth Edson. I am from Kansas in the United States, the very center of the country. And now I live in Tasia, Nairobi, Kenya.
How was it growing up in the US?
It was good. I grew up in a quiet, middle-class neighborhood. Both parents, my mom she worked a great job that allowed her to be home half the time. And I loved school. I was a Girl Scout. I played violin, I danced, and I was good at school. So I enjoyed my growing up years.
How many siblings?
I have one younger brother. He's 4 years younger than me, and he's got 3 kids in the States.
Okay, amazing. Back to you. Tell us your name, where you're from, and where you are now.
Okay, I'm Bernard Waithaka Kangeve. I grew up in Umoja, Tindwa area, and right now we're in Tasia. We've been here for 11 years. Yeah, we met when I had gone for school, got married there, then we decided to come and live back here. Is a better place to raise up children.
Okay.
Yeah.
So briefly tell us, how was it growing up for you, like siblings, schooling?
Okay, we were 4 in our family. I'm the firstborn, 2 boys, 2 girls. Our family place was, the kawaida family kind. Nothing much out of the ordinary. We were the average middle class family. That's how we actually grew up. Then we all went to boarding school. 3 of us, all of us actually went to boarding school. But in primary school, I'm the one who went to boarding school first. Yeah, I actually went to boarding school from class 5 to pretty much Form 4. My brothers actually went to boarding school when they went to high school. Yeah.
Okay, so which year did you completed high school?
High school 2000.
2000.
Yes.
And then after high school?
After high school, we worked with my mom for a while. I joined Egerton University for 1 semester. Then they had called me to do agronomy, but by the time I was joining, they had a higher diploma in information systems. So I wanted to convert the course to be computer science back by then, but they said the positions were not available. So I dropped out of that course and continued with the higher diploma from my university in UK. It was the correspondent kinda. They had a place in Westlands. After that, I was to go to the University of Sunderland, UK, but it never, we couldn't afford it. So I went back to business with my mom for a while. Then an opportunity came through this, they call them what? Those people who come and talk to students from recruiters, yes. So I got the opportunity to travel to America through the information from that school.
Okay.
Yes.
So you got?
I got an opportunity to join Park University. I went to Park University in Missouri State.
So when was this? Like which year?
2009
Okay.
is when I arrived there.
Okay.
Yes. In January.
2009, January.
Yes.
Now going to the US, yes? What was in your mind? What was the expectation?
Yes, you all have the most expectations. to me, I was expecting everything to run smoothly,
Uh-huh.
but I got there immediately. My classes was. I got there on I think on a Thursday, and on a Friday the next day I was in school. I did not even have a chance to see the daytime there. Though one thing that was quite interesting was I had never seen snow before.
So you went during winter?
I went during winter, and so I joined school. And I was expecting things to run smoothly, but they did not run as smooth as I was expecting. Because when I left back from here, we did not have as much funds, so I had to look for a job, and it took over 5 months before I could find one. A little nitty-gritties. The students could not work for more than 20 hours. They only work in campus. And, the international students do pay a little bit higher than the regular students. So I had to do something. Luckily, my sister was there before. She actually helped me through those 5 months that I didn't have much income. Yeah.
So apart from snow,
The food. The food was, a shock. Everything tasted way too sweet or way too salty. And I had a hard time, finding stuff like ugali, packet flour, until I was introduced to the shops that, sell items from Kenya. Royco was hard to find, but we found some place that they sell those foods from Kenya, and we were always there.
like African stores.
African stores, yes. Yeah, that was the most shocking thing, and that where we lived, there was no bus. You could not connect. There was no bus. You had to have a car,
So
and I did not have one. I used to borrow. I would take my sister to school, to work, and use the car to go to school and pick her from work. So basically ran the car as I was the one who actually drove the car, because I didn't have one. But much later, we found a car that was just how people get all tired of old cars. They park them. My sister found one that had a hole at the bottom, and I was like, "Is it moving?" "Yes, it's moving. Good. Let's put on a mat on that floor, and I have a car."
Pretend there's no hole.
Yeah, we all pretended there was no hole, and it was cold. If you'd move, and all the cold would come inside.
yeah.
But that car served us for the time we were there.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the people?
The people were okay. I met few people at work and school. People are not any different. I was accepted everywhere we went to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. Back to you, Grace. Is it Grace?
No,
Mama Grace.
Suzanne. Mama
Susan.
Grace.
Back to you, Susan. Like, what did you study? How was studying?
I have a bachelor's degree in business administration, but school wasn't straightforward for me. I went to college for 2 years and went through a bout of depression, so I dropped out, and then I eventually finished my associate's degree at a junior college. I don't think Kenya has anything quite like junior colleges. It's a place where you can go and just get a 2-year degree. And then I finished my bachelor's degree while I was working full-time. And I worked for a finance company for a decade. And actually, when I met Ben, I was driving a school bus. Because I had quit a job that was not serving me well and decided to get a job driving a bus as a kind of a temporary job. And then after I met Ben, he's like, "You're too smart to drive a bus. Go do something else." So he kind of pushed me back into working in the financial industry, which I did until we moved back here.
Oh. Okay, amazing.
Yeah.
So before meeting, yeah, I would love to know from you, Ben, if you were dating some girls before meeting Susan.
Funny, yes, I actually dated that girl,
Interacted, yeah.
and actually found out that girl was related to me somehow.
What's about that?
Yes, you know how, I mean, the African community is so small. The chances of finding someone you know are very high. Where I was living, that is. Someone dated this girl, and one day I think we started asking, and kwenyu ni wapi? Yeah, I'm like, yeah, we come from this place. Okay. All of a sudden, I realized she knows pretty much everybody from my mom's side of family. So I was like, are we related by any chance? I came to find out that I think he came from a family that my uncle had married into. So technically, it would have been
Like step cousins.
yeah, kinda.
Okay.
Yeah, so that I called my mom and asked about whether they know that family. Yeah, your uncle married from that family. I'm like, oh, okay. That did not go
So
quite
you
far.
dated you guys?
We did not go that far. We did not go that far. Then life there is quite busy for foreigners. Dating lifestyle is hard back there. I mean, finding somebody on time to date when you're just new is really tricky. So to me, I drowned myself to work because we had nothing. We're not going back with nothing home.
Yeah.
So I was working 3 jobs. I was actually spending 30 minutes in my house. Because the jobs I used to have were where you could stay overnight in a home. And all you had to do is make sure nobody escapes from that home. So, nalala kwa mlango. And I worked for those 3 jobs for a while. Then I joined a church which was right in my neighborhood in a Sunday school class. That's where we met.
Okay.
Yes.
You met with Susan.
Yes.
So okay, back to you. Were you dating before meeting Ben? Okay.
I had dated a guy for a couple of years. We'd been broken up for a while, so I wasn't dating anybody immediately before. But that relationship had not ended very well. And I had decided that the next guy I dated was going to have to be approved of by my dad and my brother before I would get serious with anybody, because my brother especially had hated my previous boyfriend.
Wow.
And didn't trust him, thought he was a layabout, lazy scoundrel, and he was. Anyway, so our church had these cell groups that they called Dinner for 8.
Yeah.
And you could sign up and be put into a cell group kind of semi-randomly. And of course, since we were both single, we got put into a group because they tended to do like 4 couples. But if you were singles, they had to put 2 singles in place of a couple. And so the first meeting he went to, and I forgot about. And then the next night, I think it was the next night, around midnight, I get a text message. Are you coming to the next meeting? Because if you don't, I won't either. Everyone else in the group is old. I'm looking at my phone going, who is this? I'm going to bed. I don't know who this is.
Nigerian scammers.
I like had no idea what to think. I was like, what? Who is this? I think it was a couple of days later, he texted me again in the daytime. And this time I was sitting in my mom's living room, and as he's sending me the text, I'm reading the texts to my mom and answering them. And she goes, he sounds lonely. And I said, yeah, he does. So when he asked me if I would have lunch with him on Saturday, I said, yeah, sure, I'll meet you somewhere for lunch, no problem. And so we agreed to meet at a Mexican restaurant called Chipotle, which is actually one of the few places in Kenya that Ben thought really tasted like Kenyan food. And I think that first meeting neither one of us like just looked at the other one and went, oh. It wasn't love at first sight for either one of us. But I think it may have been like at first conversation, at least.
Yeah. The conversation was mature, no game, someone who really wants to settle down. And by then I was like, you know what? It's time. Like, time is moving for me, and for her, she was serious. So I think from that point, we went to a movie another time. She invited me to her home, which was, I was like, oh yeah, this is good.
It was the following Sunday at church. I'd left my glasses at his house. I'd like taken them off at some point, and I left them. And he brought them back to me at church on Sunday, and I'm like, oh, maybe you could have lunch with me and my mom.
Yeah. So when we went to the mom's, I found a lot of dry leaves.
Dry leaves?
Yeah, I think it was fall.
It was fall.
Fall.
So the leaves fall off the trees in the States.
Yeah.
So I decided, I asked, why is your dad? The compound looks really dirty. Like, my dad is traveling. His dad used to drive a truck by then. And I decided, let me just help out since dad is not around. I think the brother was not living there then, so it was just mom.
They were both on the road.
Yeah, so
drove the truck together.
I decided to just, clean the compound. As they are talking with their mom, you can't just sit there and listen to the conversation. So in that moment, I think I gained some bonga points from the mom.
Mom fell in love with him. He had my mom at, I cleaned your driveway.
Yeah.
So you people met at church. That was the first meeting.
Yeah.
Yes.
How long did you date?
Not very long.
Not for long. I think 3 months.
3 months.
Total.
3 months total.
Yeah. But we were engaged before that. We met in October of 2009, and we decided to get married in about December. And we actually got married at the end of January 2010.
Yes.
So the whole thing was about 100 days from meeting to marriage.
Yes. Yeah. It was that fast. At the same time, I was like, you know what? I'm not getting any younger. She's there, and she has all the qualities I'm looking for. We got married, and I couldn't tell my family members because it was like, okay. Apparently, there was an incident where one of our relatives was killed by a white person.
In the US.
Britain, I think it was Britain or something like that. So people are like, that's not the way to go. But all the same, my mom, I couldn't face my mom, but my dad, I told my dad, Dad, I found a lady, I'm getting married. Like, God bless you, my son, go ahead. I know we can't come, but I'll send you pictures. You can tell mom. So we got married in the church. We thought that a lot of people are going to show up.
It was the whole church was not much bigger than this living room.
Yes, the church was a small church.
Small.
So we were hoping 150 people. Well, we were expecting, because that was the maximum capacity the church would hold. But 75 showed up. We're like, thank God, because the logistics are crazy of how you're going to feed all those people, all that. The wedding was quite small, and we decided, you know what, we're going to start life. So she was living at her mom's. She moved to my place. My place had roommates. So I had to tell my roommate, say, my wife is coming, so don't be bringing your weird stuff. The weird stuff. Yeah, but so since the lease was not all, we had a longer lease, they could not even move out. But I could also not even afford living by ourselves, so we started down there. She moved into the apartment. She joined us part of the lease. And we decided, no, let's start our life.
Okay.
So I think we stayed for how many years?
2 years.
2 years.
We've been married for just over 2 years when we decided to come back.
Yeah, then we decided to come back. And on coming back, she was pregnant with Grace.
I was very pregnant with Grace.
You know, okay. Before that, I actually was working there as a. There was a time that life was really tricky when we were there. So I went and met a friend of mine. He's called Enoch. Enoch is one of those guys who, you know how you meet an angel kind of person. Enoch told me, you need to come and Enoch actually is the person who I met him where I was working. I worked for Walmart as a tire and load department as one of my jobs. That's where I met Enoch. And Enoch introduced me to another job, so I had 3 jobs. But Enoch was this guy who was a go-getter, and he told me, Ben, mimi nimechoka kukaa huku. I'm going to start a business here. So Enoch went and started and told me after 2 weeks, you come and see what I'm doing.
Okay.
And they'll pay you for that day. I'm like, you pay me? Hey, it must be really good from us being employees to you paying.
Are you still studying?
Yes, I was still studying. Then we started, I went and saw this guy called Enoch.
Yeah.
Enoch told me, hata wewe unaweza anzisha biashara kama hii in other streets. I'm like, Enoch, I don't even have money. I'm really struggling. He's like, go find out, borrow money somewhere. So I told Suzanne. Suzanne went and told the mom. The mom had always been receiving these emails in the what do you call it? Mails that would you like to borrow against your retirement fund?
Oh, okay.
So the mom decided, no, I can borrow this money against my retirement for you guys. You don't like it? I'm like, how much do you guys need? $10,000. Oh my goodness. I have never seen so much money in my life. I converted in Kenya shillings, and that's 1 million. That's 1 million, only to realize that's pocket change. So I rented the place and bought the equipment, pesa ikaisha. It is 2 weeks to the next month's rent. I sat there thinking, Ben, what are you doing in this life? Luckily, Enoch came and told me, you have done more than people who have stayed here for 20 years. Don't give up. Here's some stock. Go sell that. We'll split profits 50-50.
Yeah.
And that's how everything changed.
Okay.
It changed from that point. The business, I was able to pay for the business. And now I quit the 3 jobs that I was working. And
Really?
yeah, she was like,
I don't saw him.
You still on tracks?
Yeah, I had left the busing company and was working in finance, so I was working 40, 50 hours a week, but he was working like 90 hours a week. I never saw him. So when he started the business and was only working 60 hours a week, I was happy.
So the business actually at some point was not quite sustainable the very first few months. So we decided to take another job that I was working for 48 hours continuously to be able to pay for the house. So I thought this is not gonna work. I went to her and told her, you know what, this is your country. You probably need a better job. You quit that job. I'll be supporting the rest of the staff. You never know, things may turn out good. And I think things turned out good.
Yeah.
She was employed. She was an employee, supervisor, then the manager.
Yeah. I went from working in a call center to then being a team manager for one of the teams in the call center. Shortly, I was that for about 4 months before we ended up deciding to move to Kenya.
Yeah, which was okay, and that actually helped me set up the business in a better way. The business became really successful at some point. I don't know if things in life really, if there are things that happen that's something that happened to me that was great. It became successful. Me and my own way of thinking, went buying new cars. Sijaitwa ya karatasi, hata ninunue ya karatasi. So I went buying brand new cars instead of,
What business were you doing?
I was actually selling tires, fixing small engines like lawnmowers. In case someone was selling his car, I would resell it too. That's pretty much what I was doing. I was doing that for the purpose of trying to sustain us, also helping people back at home. Yeah.
Because we had already started helping with some school fees
Yes.
at that point.
And that's where actually the whole thing started. When we were back there. So when we decided to come back in 2012. No, we decided to have a child in 2012.
2012.
Not 20?
Oh, I got pregnant in 2011.
Yeah.
September of 2011.
Our coming was unusual. By then, biashara was really good. So I got out of school. And getting out of school became out of status. I was arrested and put into jail. And being put to jail actually made me realize,
For how long?
I think it was
3
days.
Before he
3
was
days,
bailed
yeah.
out.
3 days, then they let me go on free bail. Then we started going to courts, back and forth, reporting to the immigration department. Then finally, I realized that we were paying too much for lawyers, despite having a good business. I'm like, let's go back home.
Okay.
So we packed our 6 suitcases. By then, I had bought a house somewhere about 800 meters from here, but it wasn't finished.
Okay.
So I called my friend, he was called Alex. I told him, hey Alex, we're coming back.
Okay.
So
before coming back to
Yes.
Africa, Kenya, I would love to know what attracted you to her.
but to her,
Huh?
she was a very serious person.
What do you mean?
Like, you know how women play hard to get? She was not that kind.
So you don't like hard?
To me, I thought, if you are ready, if you're serious, let's do it.
This, yeah.
Yes. To me, that was one thing. And she was very respectful. And I told her, you can't be doing this. We can do this. She believed in me.
Okay.
And that's one of the greatest thing I love about her.
Okay.
Till today, she believes in what she accepted my leadership, and that's the great thing. Yeah.
And you?
He had vision.
Vision.
Yeah. So often you meet a guy and they have no vision for their life. They don't know what they want to accomplish in life. And on one of our first dates, he told me that his goal in life was to build an apartment complex. And I went, wow, that's impressive. He goes, actually, I want to build a city. And I went, okay. So you can see why he goes, she believed in me and that was big. So I was like, you can do it, let's do it. And, he started his tire shop and started it almost without telling me. I mean, he had already figured out where he wanted it to be and made his plan. And then he told me what he wanted to do. And I was like, yeah, okay, let me talk to my mom and see what we can do. And luckily my parents have always been very supportive. And my parents believe that if they can help their kids, they should help them now rather than waiting until they're dead for us to get their inheritance. My mom would rather help now and be able to see the benefit. Yeah.
You can.
Yeah, he had vision. He had a positivity that attracted me. He believed that with God he could do anything, and that was attractive to me. And then he was worthy of respect. A lot of men aren't. Well, he makes me laugh for one thing, but that's not why he's worthy of respect. Because he had drive. I mean, he'd been in the United States for less than a year when I met him. Mm-hmm. He was going to school. He had, at that point, 2 jobs. Mm-hmm. And he had gotten a car and he had an apartment. Yeah, he was sharing it with a friend, but he had accomplished so much already. Mm-hmm. And he had plans that I knew meant that if he had come this far, he was going to keep going. Mm-hmm. And so he was worth taking a chance on.
Okay. What age now did you get married?
She's older than I am.
How old is she?
I'm gonna turn 49 in a week. Mm-hmm. And I was 35, almost 36 when they got married.
And I was 27.
You were 27.
Yeah.
What was
And that is the first time we've ever told anyone in Kenya that.
Yes, we've never told people, including my mom.
I don't care.
Okay.
It doesn't bother me at all.
We are okay.
We haven't told anybody because of concerns that people in his family might have problems.
Yeah, they see it differently.
Mm-hmm. So, but I figure they've known me for 13 years. If they have a problem with it now,
so sad.
That's their problem, not mine.
Yeah.
But no, and it never bothered me that he was younger because he had more drive and maturity than a lot of men my own age.
Mm-hmm.
So when he asked me to marry him, I was like, yeah, okay, let's do this. Mm-hmm. And then the first time we met with the pastor, he told me, he said, my job is to scare Ben. And if he scares, don't marry him.
Mm-hmm. What do you mean scaring me?
Well, if a guy can scare away when the pastor talks to him and tells him, to be a husband, you need to do this and this and this and this, then you're not ready.
The pastor was a family friend, so...
Yeah, the pastor was a good family friend of mine.
Yeah,
but
so it was candid talk.
So it was pretty candid talk that he had. And when we left the first meeting with the pastor, Ben goes, I'm not entirely sure I'm ready. And I'm like, wait, what? I've already bought a dress. I didn't tell him that. I had already bought a wedding dress. I didn't tell him. But I go, well, okay, let's go talk to my mom and dad because they know that we went to go meet with Pastor Fred. Okay, so we went and talked to my mom. And my mom's response when Ben told him that he wasn't ready was, well, you guys can date for 6 months and then just see how things go. Mm-hmm. And then when Ben went home, she goes, Suzanne, you need to spend as much time as you can with him if they really think you want to marry him. Mm-hmm. So since I was driving a bus, I would take kids to school in the morning, and then I would go over to Ben's apartment, and we would have breakfast together and talk and watch TV or whatever until he had to go to work. Mm-hmm. And then he would go to work and I would go back and I would pick kids up from school. Yeah. And then when he got off of his second job at night, then he would come over to my mom's house and have dinner with me at my mom's house so that we were actually seeing each other as much as we possibly could every day to make sure that
this is what you really want.
And about a month later, because so he originally asked me to marry him in November. And then he got scared. But then about 3 weeks later, we were having breakfast one morning. And he looks at me and he goes, what were we waiting for? I said, I don't know. You're the one who wanted to wait. He goes, yeah, let's go ahead and get married. So we met again.
Did you propose?
Yes, I did.
How was it?
In a weird way. I put a ring on the bathroom. Somewhere in the bathroom. What was it?
I had a jewelry box.
A jewel box that she had left in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Apparently she did not even see it. I'm like, hey. I just could you check your jewelry box if there's something in there? Like, oh, thank you. Like, yeah, will you marry me? Yeah. And that's how it was.
Yeah, I was. And he, all of our friends were happy for us.
Yeah.
There was only one person that we didn't tell his mom really until after we were married.
Yes.
You didn't?
His mom didn't really even know we were getting married until afterwards.
Yeah.
But one of my aunts, the only person who ever had any negative thing to say, she goes, are you sure he doesn't have AIDS? I said, what? I said, Mom, he came here on a student visa. He had to go through medical exams. He's healthy.
I was small though.
I was so insulted. I was like, seriously?
Yeah, I
But then
was
after she
kidding.
met him, she liked him. But it was really that first when I caught, when I was telling my family members and I called her to tell her that, yeah, I'm engaged. And I was actually picking out my wedding dress the day she and I had this conversation on the phone. I was like, you know what? I'll talk to you later.
Okay.
Can't have this conversation right now.
And the reaction from the friends, like African friends,
Oh,
and
they were so nice.
Mhm.
I did not want to have an African kind of wedding because I knew they would blow it. You know how weddings here have crowds. So, but once they found it, they're like, now I'm cooking pilau, I'm cooking tea. They were very generous. They
Yeah.
contributed towards the wedding. And literally, we had a very nice small wedding.
It wasn't big, but it was nice. It was
very
about half
nice.
his friends and about half my family.
Yeah.
And I didn't know until like 10 days before the wedding that Kenyans have goat and pilau at every wedding. And like I had no idea. I was just starting to learn how to cook some Kenyan food. And one of our friends said, "So who's making your goat?" And I looked at her and went, "What are you talking about?" She goes, "Well, who's making pilau?" And I went, "Huh?" Because I had gone and gotten food catered for, like sandwiches and stuff, because it was casual afternoon lunch thing. We weren't planning on having a full meal. And I'm like, I don't. She goes, "Tell Ben to get goat. I'll cook the goat. Carol will cook the pilau. Someone else is going to cook the chai." And she just kind of took over that part of it. And I went, okay.
You're lucky to have friends who actually helped us with that.
So then, African men pay dowries to their women.
Yes.
Did you pay dowry?
No.
Yes.
Actually, the dad told me my daughter is not to be bought. Whatever culture you guys have, I'm giving you my daughter for
free.
For free. And I love her. In fact, the dad paid for the wedding, most of the wedding. That's the culture there. The dad pays for the wedding as a thank you gift to them. Yeah.
To help the bride and groom get set up.
But I did pay for the suits for the men and all that stuff.
Yeah. And we had a friend who paid for our honeymoon.
Yeah.
That was her wedding gift to us, was to pay for. We had one night in a hotel room, but she paid for it.
She paid for it. She was like,
She's like, "Where are you going on your honeymoon?" I said, "We don't have money for a honeymoon." She goes, "Oh," she says, "I'm going to put you up in a hotel for a night." Okay.
So what do you think about like dowry culture here in Africa? What do you think about it?
For me, it's weird. I've been to several ratios. I think the whole thing, I think there's some interesting parts to it, but the idea of paying for a wife does seem a bit to me like buying a wife, and I struggle with that. Although I did find it funny that his uncles were quick to assure Ben that he could still accept a dowry for our daughter because I'm like a captured bride because I'm not from his tribe. Which I thought was a funny thing.
I asked my uncles about that. They told me, you know what, in the old days, when the tribes used to fight, let's say the Kamba community and the Kifumi would fight, they would capture some women. And these women were given as gifts to warriors in their clan. I did not know that part of the culture. So they termed her as a bride from another tribe who was given as a gift. So
theoretically, we could accept dowry for our daughter, but I don't think it's something that
it has never crossed our minds on how
in
it will be.
my opinion, rather than paying me, who doesn't need a young man's money, I would rather that he use the money that he would pay for dowry to make a house for him and his wife, for him and our daughter, to set up their family, to make sure they have a bed and couches and all of the things that they need in their home, much more than giving me a bunch of sugar and flour and bananas.
And a lot of damos.
If you could marry an African woman, would you pay dowry?
Definitely, it's the expectation. I don't know. We see a lot of YouTube channels. Hata hujanilipia mahari, utaniambia kitu.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of that. People think that the fact that you've paid dowry, like you own.
You own.
Yeah, you own something. I mean, human beings are not to be owned. It's all about mutual respect between two people. To me, that's what matters.
Okay.
Yeah.
So back to the wedding day. Did you go for honeymoon?
We did. We had a very short one
day.
night. Our friend paid for a hotel for us, so we went and stayed in the hotel. And then the next day we had breakfast and we went and watched a movie. It was actually the first time we'd ever gone to the movies together. Most of our dates had been at his apartment.
For a red box.
Because there was a thing in the States at the time called Redbox where you could rent a movie and take it home and watch it and then take it back and deposit it back in this box. But we went out to lunch and whatever, and then the next day we both had to work.
So back to normal.
Back to normal life.
Back to you, Ben, yeah? So how was it for you getting married in US with no family members, parents?
I mean, my sister was there.
Okay.
She was one of what we call the person that you're like, wow, at least one family member attended. I had friends. My high school desk mate, walikuwa huko. I mean, a big chunk of people that I know, but not quite direct family, walikuwa huko. But I knew the logistics of inviting my mom and dad. You know how it is on the American embassy. Just getting a visa was like, so it was tricky because now 3 years down the line, it's introducing your wife all over again to your family who are here.
Okay.
So when we came back, let's go see my mom. Let's go see my uncles. You know, it was like having a fresh introduction to the family on this side. Yeah.
Were you not feeling like you were being hidden from the mom?
Well, a little bit, but he had told me about
The past relationship.
the first relationship he ever had, the first dating relationship he ever had, and his mom's opinion of that girl. And he told me, he says, I'm protecting you from my mom for now. He said, I know that when she actually meets you, she'll like you, but trying to introduce you to her over the phone is tricky. I mean, I had talked to her a few times by the time we moved here, but I'd never even done a video chat with her. He was like, I'm just protecting you because I want her to get to know you here, you know, when actually we can go visit her. Because at the time when we first got married, we weren't planning to move to Kenya. That plan came later. So, yeah, but after I started getting to know Kenyan culture a little bit, I kind of understood that
The way of life.
Moms have opinions.
moms have opinions.
Ben, you were in the relationship before?
Before I left here,
Yeah.
yes, I was in a relationship before I left here.
Yeah.
And I told that girlfriend, Meenda, I'm sorry. I mean, I do not know when I'm coming back. You just move on. Yes.
Why? Okay, your mom didn't like the girl.
Oh my goodness, my mom did not like the girl.
Why
She
did
told
you didn't like?
her right on her face, and I was wondering, should I defend my girlfriend
Oh, your mom.
or should I talk back to my mom? You know, that spot that you're in between a rock and a hard place. Yes. So I was protecting her from that strong opinion. Yeah.
Okay. So after wedding, after honeymoon, where next?
We actually went back to work like normal.
The
we-
next day we went to work.
Yeah, really, basically, to us, it was just making it in life. That's what was driving me, personally was driving me. So when we decided to come back, we had to start all over.
After like how long after wedding?
We stayed
just over about 2 years.
2 years, yeah.
2 years.
2 years, yes.
Started the journey of coming back.
Yes. Yeah.
So how was it like now living together as married couple, the same house?
There was a little bit of adjustment because, he grew up in a much more patriarchal culture than I did, and so we had a few conflicts surrounding culture, but we've worked them out over time. I think we actually ran into more of that after we moved back here, and we were in his culture. It was easier for him to let go of some Kenyan culture when he was in the States.
Yeah.
But once we moved back here, all of a sudden he felt more constrained by his own culture too. So it was probably more challenging once we moved back than it was when we were in the States.
Okay. So you came back which year?
In 2012, we came back April 19th of 2012.
Well,
Yep. It was raining. It was midnight. It was raining hard. And that rainy season was really rainy, like rained every day for 2 or 3 hours, whatever. We left the airport. We were coming down the old airport road, down past Taj Mahal when it still existed, down Outer Ring Road to Feather Road, down Feather Road. And I thought we were going to die before we ever got.
The potholes were giant.
There were huge potholes. There was no lights. It was raining so hard, and I couldn't believe how much traffic there was at midnight. I was like, I literally looked at myself. Are we gonna survive? Are we gonna get there? Because it's okay.
so what was your expectation while you were coming to Kenya?
I had no idea. I really had none. I'd never been here. Josh, I'm sorry I can't talk to you right now. I had no idea what to expect. I kept asking Ben before we left, what do I need to know about Kenya? What's going to surprise me? And his stock answer was, everything we have in America, we have in Kenya. It's just a little bit different. Man, was that the understatement of the century. He did finally tell me one night, he goes, not all toilets in Kenya are sit-down toilets.
Okay.
I looked at him and I go, what are you talking about? He goes, well, sometimes you have to squat. And I went, no. I'm 7 months pregnant. That is not going to work.
You came while pregnant.
I was pregnant. I was 7 months pregnant when we arrived.
So we had to change the toilet
Okay.
In the house
that we
had here.
Yeah.
So the next day he calls Alex. He goes, Alex, Suzanne can't handle a squatty potty. You got to put a real toilet in that house. So I really had I had never hand washed clothes. I had never cooked over a charcoal Jiko. I had never even hung clothes on a line because my parents always had a washer and a dryer. I'd never been, well, I can't say I'd never been anywhere where you drove on the left-hand side of the road because I had been to England, but I was 16 and I wasn't paying attention to the driving. So everything was off kilter. Nothing felt familiar. And ketchup. Oh my gosh, ketchup.
Oh, sweet.
Every single
Tomato sauce.
letter I wrote to my parents for the first 6 months, I complained about the tomato sauce. Mom, I can't eat French fries, chips here because of their ketchup, which they call tomato sauce. It's too sweet. I still don't like the stuff. And I did finally find that you could buy American-style ketchup here, but it took a while. So that Christmas, my dad gave me a box like this big of ketchup packets from the fast food places. Those are a truck driver. So every time he had lunch, he would grab me a couple of ketchup packets and he'd stick it in a box.
Yeah.
He gave me this whole box of ketchup. I didn't realize until then how much I had complained about the ketchup. But I was so overwhelmed that I actually didn't notice some very obvious things, like birds. I didn't notice birds in Kenya for 3 months. because there was so much that was different. Cows walking down the street, which I'd never seen. Getting on a matatu and having the matatu driver shout at everybody. So much was so different. The traffic was insane. And one day I woke up and I heard a bird singing. And I looked at Ben, I go, Ben, you have birds? And he goes, yeah. And I went, I never noticed birds. Mm-hmm. He just started laughing at me.
What shocked you most?
The lack of power and water.
Yeah.
What and
yeah, because
but we had a lot of blackouts
there was
back
a
then.
lot of blackouts. The first month we were here, we had a blackout almost every single day.
She had not experienced blackouts
never
before.
Experienced blackouts. You almost never have blackouts in my country, at least on the town I grew up in. And I had never in my life, I mean, I'd had a couple of times where the water got turned off, but I had never just not had water, where you had to wait to be able to pump the water from someplace else. And if you weren't the first person who got your pump turned on, you weren't going to get any water. I had no experience with that. Pouring water from a bucket into a toilet because it was all you had. That was... taking a cold shower because there's no power and you don't have actual running water anyway, so you have to heat up water on a stove and take a bucket bath. Those were all completely new.
She was spoiled.
I realized actually how very different the cultures we grew up in were at that point. Because all of a sudden they went, this is normal for you. He goes, yeah, power goes out. Sometimes you don't have water, take a bath in a basin. He goes, you just do. And I went, yeah.
So you arrived at night, yeah?
In the middle of the night, yeah.
And the next morning, what was your expectation? And how was it?
I expected a hot shower and I couldn't figure out how to use the instant shower, so I got a cold one. I couldn't figure out how to get the temperature right. Actually, I didn't know you had to turn the instant shower on. So I took the shower and I'm like messing with the thing, and I finally finished my shower and I go, Ben, I thought you told me they had hot water, because we were staying at our friend's house the first week. And he goes, did you turn it on? I went, yeah, I turned the water on. He goes, no, did you turn the instant shower on? I goes, what are you talking about? He goes, okay.
The red button outside the door.
Back up a little bit and tell you a little more.
And apart from shower and power, what else shocked you? Like food, people.
Well, the food didn't really surprise me because Ben had been teaching me how to cook a lot of the Kenyan food in the first 2 years we were married. So I wasn't shocked by the food. I think things like the fact that cows can walk down the street here and nobody thinks anything of it. Donkeys in the neighborhood, just what we would consider farm animals, just in a regular neighborhood, all the chickens and all that kind of stuff. You don't see that in the States. The weather is like springtime in Kansas, so that didn't surprise me so much. The mud, I think, surprised me. I wasn't expecting that much mud.
She kept on falling every time. Like, oh my goodness.
Americans don't really learn how to walk in the mud if you grew up in the city. And black cotton soil mud is sticky and slippery at the same time. So I would slide and then I would stick. And when I stuck, I would fall. And it became a joke that every time I walked out of the house, I would go, don't fall.
And people, like?
Other than I got greeted, like welcomed to Kenya all the time. Mzungu, how are you? Welcome to Kenya. Every time I stepped out of the house for months, and even now,
until today.
People come in and out of the neighborhood. When new people come in, welcome to Kenya, sister. Welcome to Kenya, British. I'm like, I'm not British. So I find it funny now that people greet me as though I'm the newcomer to Tasia when I've been here for a decade.
Yeah, we are the newcomers
They
actually.
just moved in. But they don't know that. They see me and assume I'm a tourist. I think that's the most common assumption, is that I'm a tourist. So yeah, I've gotten used to it. I really did. In the first year, we didn't have a car, so I had to learn how to navigate the matatus. I had to learn how to ride on a boda. I learned how to, all the things I didn't know how to do when we came, I had to learn how to do, and some of it was harder than others. Culture thing. One culture thing that surprised me. Ben was outside talking to a group of men one day, and I was bored in the house. I just wanted to go outside. So I went outside and I walked up, and in America, if a group of people that I knew was talking, I could just walk up to them and join the conversation. I walked up to join the conversation, and all of a sudden everybody was gone except me and Ben. And he said, Suzanne, you don't walk up to a group of men talking in Kenya. He said, unless I invite you to join us, you can't just walk up to a group of men. They have subconsciously assume that you're coming to tell me you need me to do something.
Okay.
And I went,
With all of this past.
Yeah, I get it.
And I went, and we had this discussion several times because it took me a while to like really get that through my head. And I mean, he's right. I think Kenyan women probably don't notice it because they learn when they're kids not to walk up to a group of men, especially Kikuyu men who are talking. But I had to learn it as an adult, and to me it felt very, very weird. Over the years, we've met enough people that recognize my American culture is different, that they don't do that so much, but I'm still careful when Ben's talking to people that I don't know. I tend not to just walk up. It does sometimes frustrate me, but I've gotten used to it.
So back to you, Ben, yeah? You're bringing her to Kenya. She's 7 months pregnant. Have you told your parents?
Yeah, I had told, but when I was coming, I actually called my mom, I called my dad, and one of my aunts. I told them, we're coming back, and my wife is pregnant, we're coming to settle. So the hard thing when we came back was finding insurance coverage for the hospital, because when you're already
when you're almost pregnant,
they don't want to cover you.
Even though I had insurance in America.
Yeah, so now we had to abandon that insurance and here do cash everything. Okay, that took a big chunk. So we first went to Mama Lucy. Mama Lucy was being opened. We thought, it's a new hospital, it will look cool. Tulisikia mtu ametukanwa pale, nikamwambia, she did not hear it. I'm the one who had it. One of the nurses was cursing somebody. Like, okay, let's keep going. Different hospital. So we went to Mpisha. Mpisha was doing some renovation by then. And when she walked in, we were taken to an older section. She was like, this looks like a horror movie. I'm not giving birth here. So like, okay.
I was trying not to be rude, so I didn't say we're inside.
So we went to Aga Khan Hospital. They're like, yeah, this looks cool. It's modern, but it looks like in the 80s. It's still good.
Yeah.
Like, okay, let's do this. So we went to Aga Khan Hospital. That took us, it took a very big chunk on our finances because we had come back and we came back without, that plan. And that took a big chunk of what we had. I'd actually sold my car back there and come back with some money so that we'll be able to settle with it here. So we did not have a car. But my dad was like, kuna gari ya 500 hapo, utanunua? I'm like, 500? Okay. You can have 500 and then 500 for hospital. Good. Oh my goodness. The hospital came to about 285, if I'm not wrong. 285. In between there, I took the car to the garage, kukaibiwa. The insurance would not pay the claim. And that's where our life started going down. I don't have a job, she doesn't have a job.
She's pregnant.
She was already even given birth now. So we decided, I was just one of those places where nobody would give me a job because, everybody thinks you're rich, you know. I was looking for, kibarua somewhere for 500. So since the business was running back in America, I was hoping that the business will continue running. I had let it to my brother-in-law. But apparently there's a clause that says that if you sublet the business or you hand over the business, the landlord has the right to call the lease in full. What does that mean? You pay it in full. Paying that lease in full is even more costly than even giving up the whole business, the stock. That's how I lost my business back there. And I'm here with a kid with nothing. But at least we were in a house, but we're not paying rent. Yes.
You had a built a house.
We had a big
bought
house.
an investment property back here, and we ended up living in.
We had bought it as an investment property. So now the challenges started. We ran broke in 9 months. 9.
Yeah,
6. We call it 6 because the 9th month she had to go back home.
Why?
Because we didn't even have anything.
Try and go make some money.
We had nothing to eat.
To hustle.
Yes. By then my mom was auctioned. My brother could not believe that I'm broke. People would not give me a job.
Then you from US.
Yes.
You're here with Mzungu. Not having money.
Exactly. So she went with our daughter back with our daughter to America for, was it 6 months?
5 or 6 months.
5 or 6 months for the first time. When I was left back here, I tried selling maize in Kitale. I drove as a taxi driver. I don't know what. I did pretty much anything I could do. I started raising quails.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I tried literally everything that needs to be done.
Now, what are you doing now in the
Well, I actually went to set up our NGO in the States because at that point we used the last of the money that we had to buy this plot.
Yes.
So we have this plot, and while I'm gone, he's trying to grow tomatoes on it and other things like that.
Yeah, I was growing tomatoes here
to
too.
have money.
Yes, I was.
So I went back to the States to set up our NGO, and because you kind of have to be there to do to make the filing and be there to answer questions and whatever. And while I was there, I was doing a little, this and that, but we started getting our first donations, and one of the donations that we got was just 50,000 shillings a month, basically to support us physically. And I was sending part of that back to Ben and using part of it for me and Grace in the States. Of course, we were staying with my mom, so they helped a lot. And then by the time I got back, Ben...
After how long?
I was gone for about 6 months.
Okay.
Wow.
And Ben and I struggled for the next year. And finally decided that I needed to just go back for a whole year and work. I needed to just go back and get a job. And initially, we kind of made the decision that I would go back without Grace and leave Grace here so that Dad could have time.
So she left Grace here.
To bond with her and stuff. And so she stayed here with Daddy because she was weaned and whatever. And I figured if there was any time in her life that I had to leave her, it would be better when she was young enough that she would never remember it. So I went back to the States and I got a job actually working for the same company that I had been working for before we left, doing a different thing, but same company. And I worked there. I worked nights, which worked out because it meant I could call Ben on my lunch break and he would be awake. And then about 6 months into that, I'm like, Ben had somebody who was kind of trying to seduce him. And so I'm like, I had to go back and make sure he was okay.
He told you.
Yeah, he called me. He told me that this person is like really trying to come on to him. And he goes, and I'm lonely. And I'm like, yeah, I'm figuring something out. So
she actually came back at night.
I came back. I arrived in the middle of the night. He didn't know. He knew I was coming, but he didn't know when. And so I had to get a taxi from the airport because I hadn't had him come pick me up. And so while I'm there, when I arrived at the door, I'm like knocking on the door. I'm like, Ben, let me in. Ben, let me in. Because of course it was night and he had the door
like, who's knocking? Am I dreaming?
He thought he was dreaming. He comes to the door and he lets me in. And he basically goes back to sleep.
I'm like, is this a dream? I wake up.
The next morning he woke up and realized I was really there.
Yeah.
And so I spent, I think, 2 weeks. I'm not even sure it was 2 weeks. I think I was only able to get a week off of work. But I spent that time there, and then we decided that maybe Grace should go ahead and come back to the States with me because she really wanted to see her grandparents in the States. So we went back to the States, and that was when I realized that my daughter had two language vocabularies in her head. She had an English vocabulary and she had a Swahili vocabulary, and she knew that they were separate. So when she was in America and her grandparents, who didn't respond to anything she said in Swahili, were around, then she would only speak the English words. And then when she would come back here, she would only speak the Swahili. So it meant that when we were here, when we were there, I could understand my daughter. When we were here, I couldn't.
So Ben, now you hustling, you selling maize.
She would actually send some little. So she would send me like $100 or whatever she made. I'd go to Kitale, buy maize, from farmers. That business flopped when we decided to trust somebody to anike mahindi nje for the maize to dry, only for them not to dry, and the maize went bad. We lost almost 140. I was like, what am I gonna say happened to the money that I was told to invest? So that's actually took me back. So a friend of mine gave me a job to work as taxi driver. So I worked as a taxi driver for a while, which was good. At least I could get 2,000 every trip that we're going, and drive people from here to Kitale, locally and also outside. That was there for a while. Then I think our breakthrough came at some point when, my parents were auctioned, and nobody could help each other in any financial form. So my dad sold a piece of land. Ben, I need to take you somewhere. But then I did not even have anything to download. I did not even ask. I went to tunaenda kuuza shamba, so let me fika. So we sold the shamba. They were also living in Umoja. And with the money, he started building along Thika Road, and loaned me some money to start the well. Since I had this place and I had that dream of starting our borehole here. It was we thought way before, because by then I also had the paperwork and everything, but I did not have the money. So my dad loaned me money. I dug the hole, but I did not even have the money to put up the. Joshua, interrupting, please.
What?
I did not have the money to put up the. The cat is back. Sorry.
It's okay.
I did not have the money to buy the pump. I don't know how I met this guy. It's call him Tala. Thanks to that guy. I mean, he loaned me a 400,000 pump. Just put into the well. And my dad gave me, I told my dad, I still do not have a tank. So my dad gave me another 70,000 to buy the first tank. By then, she was also in America, trying to make ends meet. I think she had gotten a donation of about, was it 400?
Yeah.
400K was just enough for her and Grace to come back. And then we have nothing. But I did not tell them the well is dug. I told them, you guys have to come back. We'll know what to do. She's always believed me somehow. So she came back and met the well was already dug, and we were making at least something. We sold our first 1,000 that day, and we had something to eat. We did not have anything.
Like selling water?
It's selling water.
Yeah.
And now from there, we were to take that water from here to our property that's about 800 not miles, 800 meters from here. Along the way, we sold our very first 1,000. That day we had something to eat. She had come back. She came back without much money, the kind that you just survive for that day, but she was here.
With my mom.
Yeah.
Because my mom came to visit us when we...
So you came with your mother and your daughter?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it was me and Mom and Grace that came.
Yes.
Were you not afraid that Ben might get married, or you had...
No, but his mom was convinced I wasn't going to come back.
Yeah, my mom thought she's not coming back.
Actually, for the first about 5 years, every time I went back to the States, which I did several times, she would tell Ben, she's not coming back. She's not going to come back this time.
Why?
I don't know. Maybe my mom thought we came to a very hardship area and she's not used to it. Yeah, but Mom did not know how well.
Mom was convinced I would just get frustrated and leave.
Yes, but she did not.
Didn't know how stubborn I am.
So we saw after selling the water, I decided to plumb the water to that other house. Along the road, tuwekee maji. And now the business grew and grew and grew. Right now we have almost a kilometer supplying the water that way, another kilometer that way. And that's what we have been using for the scholarship funds. We could have moved, done greater things, tutoke hapa venye watu wanatokanga the neighborhood, but to us that's the mission that we needed to accomplish.
Okay, so you said your mom, you got married when you had not told your mom about her, right? You told her when you landed in Kenya, right?
I think my dad also told my mom, because I told and tell mom I'm getting married.
Okay.
Yeah.
So were you received in Ben's family?
I was. Actually, everybody was very gracious to me. His mom's dad passed away just shortly before he moved here, so I never met him. But when we'd been here just a couple weeks, we went up to visit his dad's side of the family, and we met his grandpa on that side of the family. And his grandpa gave me a blessing before we left, so his grandpa liked me. And then we went and saw his grandma on his mom's side, I think the week after that, and that was funny. She was very welcoming too, but that was my first introduction to Jahe.
Yeah.
Okay. So now you started living together, business is doing well.
Yeah.
One daughter.
Yeah. Business was okay. Was doing well. What else happening between there?
Challenges you were facing, marriage to a Mzungu, now living in Africa, Kenya?
I had to buy a dishwasher and a washing machine. Yes. In fact, I bought a washing machine before I bought a mattress.
Yeah.
Because she did not know how to wash clothes for real. And I don't blame her because it was like, that was a soft life. Even me in America, I never washed clothes. I was like, wow, this is how life should be like. I don't know why we hand washing and this thing just does it. I used to believe the washing machines do not do a good job. Well, like, I think it's a mental thing. Maybe we find them expensive, but we really do save a lot. I think I wanted to make her comfortable too.
Yeah, that was one of the first things.
I solved the water problem. I solved the water problem and washing problem.
Washing problem.
Yeah, the power. Power problem.
We bought a clothes washing machine before we bought a couch, before we bought a table, before we bought a bed, and before we bought a refrigerator.
Yeah.
So he knew that one was important to me. I could deal with the other stuff. I could sleep on a mattress on the floor, but I needed a machine to wash clothes. Yeah. And I adjusted. There was a lot of things I had to learn how to do too, but he did try and ease things for me where he could. But when you live in another culture, you have to adjust.
Okay. Any other challenges you are facing? The outside pressure?
Oh, the outside pressure, we'd go somewhere and everybody would think I'm the taxi driver. I'm driving her. And sometimes we would just go to a restaurant and get, top class because we're with her. I was like, okay, let's play this. Let's get the good stuff.
He likes to use my white privilege here.
Yeah.
I never felt any privilege when I lived in America. I moved here and I found out that I get a lot more privilege here than I did there.
Ever experienced like racism here?
A little bit. Sometimes in the same conversation as I've experienced white privilege, somebody would put me to the front of the line for the bus and then want to charge me more money because I was white. But a lot of it is people assuming I had money and asking me for money. Like random people would stop me on the street. Sister, buy me some lunch. Sister, can you do some shopping for me? Sister, can you? And I'm like, look, I don't have money. I would be standing in the bus line at Commercial Stage waiting to get on a bus to come from town to home. And somebody would come up to me and ask me to buy them dinner. And I'm like, I'm standing in line for the bus. What makes you think I have money? If I had money, I would not be riding a bus. I'm sorry. Especially not here.
Is it safe for Mzungu to walk around Nairobi or Kenya alone?
As long as I don't go down to River Road at night. I never felt uncomfortable in Nairobi. I have been mugged a couple of times. I've had a couple of electronics stolen from me. But I never felt unsafe in terms of feeling like I was physically unsafe. I figured I could always get a new phone. If that's all they wanted, let them have it. But no, Ben told me a couple places that just weren't safe for anybody to go at certain times of day, and I just avoided those places because my husband said they weren't really safe places to go, so I didn't go there. But no, I've taken Matatu from here to Nakuru by myself. I've gone all over Nairobi by myself in Matatus. I think we'd been here for about a month when Ben forced me to start driving here. Like, you better learn how to do it because I'm not going to be your taxi driver forever.
Yeah.
So, and culture shock is not it's not something that happens once and you're done.
There's always something new that you never knew about.
Even after 10 years, I can notice something that I just never really noticed before. I think we'd been here for about 5 years, and one day we were driving over where Forest Road joins Limuru Road. You're going down the off-ramp from Forest Road onto Limuru Road. And I suddenly realized that there were houses that their driveways, their gates were right on the ramp. And I went, what? Why would you do that? You can't do that in America. And he said to me, that's the houses were there first. And they built the road later, and so they just, and I went, okay. So little things, and sometimes it's stuff that has probably happened to me before, but for whatever reason it didn't hit me. And then it'll all of a sudden go, wow, really? That's weird. And sometimes I struggle to find examples now after having been here for a decade, but some of them stick out in my mind, like the first time I saw a cow walking down the street. The first time I realized there were birds and realized that I hadn't been noticing them until just then. Things like when we had Grace, I was asking for ice at the hospital to drink in my water, and the young lady who was serving the food, she comes in at, I think, breakfast or lunch the day after Grace was born, and she said, "Is it okay if I bring you some ice later?" I said, "Sure, why?" She said, "Well, it's still making." And I looked at her and said, "Am I the only one in the hospital who wants ice?" She goes, I went, wow, okay.
Okay. So, Grace was born, now you've settled, business. You have any other kids?
It took us a while to decide to have another child. Because we were happy with Grace, but I was getting a little bit older, and I was like, if we don't have another kid pretty soon, we're just not going to. And I had always wanted to have 3 or 4 kids. When we got married, he didn't want any.
Oh, then you were not for kids.
No, it was not for kids.
Why was that?
We were a lot in our family. I thought, just have fun,
Really?
I was not for kids. Then I think things changed. It changed down the line. And right now, I wish we had more.
Right now, we wish we had been a little younger when we started, so that we would have more. But 5 years after Grace was born, 4 years after Grace was born, I got pregnant with Josh. And even though our experience at Aga Khan had been good, I decided I wanted to use a midwife the second time around. And Ben was like, that would be okay in America, but I don't know about here. He's like, I'm not so sure about that. I said, well, let me do some research. Because, that's my thing. I find stuff out. So I started looking, and I found this midwifery center called East Mom, which I highly recommend. The ladies there are wonderful. And I'm like, I looked up their stuff, and I call them, and I talk to them. And, I told them, I said, my husband's Kenyan, and he's really a little bit iffy on the whole thing of giving birth in a birthing center and not in a hospital. And she goes, well, why don't you both come and he can ask me whatever questions he wants. And I went, okay, he's going to grill you. She goes, that's fine. So we made an appointment, and the two of us went over there, and he asked questions, actually, I knew some of the questions he had, so I made sure that those questions got asked, because sometimes he gets into a situation, he forgets some of the things he's asked me. So we had the conversation, and at the end of it, he goes, yeah, okay, we can try this. So I did all of my prenatal appointments with the midwives, and we went there for the birth. And other than the fact that I have really long labors, everything was smooth, went fine. And Joshua was, as he likes to say, born in a swimming pool.
Yeah. My main concern was that in case of an emergency, how traffic used to be really crazy. I was like, man, how are you going to make it with an ambulance in this traffic?
In this town.
Yes, that was my main concern. In America, everything is like 9 minutes away.
Yeah.
Here now,
But they were certain that they could get me in an ambulance and get me to a hospital pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Because they were at Adams Arcade. And they said, no, they said, first of all, we've never had anyone who had to be transferred emergency. But we can have an ambulance waiting on standby here if you want. You'd have to pay for the ambulance to be on standby. I'm glad we didn't do that because my labor took 3 days.
Right.
That would have been a lot of standby to pay for.
I think that was a very nice place. It was a home, just like this.
Yeah.
The mom was there, the dad was there. It's like we were living in that home. It was a bathing center, a very nice place. I mean, I think that's how the old people used to do it. But I think somehow everybody has gone to the hospital where it's, like,
So now you have 2 kids.
yeah.
Are they in school?
I homeschool, or we homeschool. He's the headmaster, I'm the teacher.
How is it?
It's not bad. I had told him before we ever got married that I wanted to homeschool my kids. And in America, he was like, yeah, right, whatever, you're not going to do that. And after we got here, and I realized pretty quickly that if I ever wanted to go visit my family, I either had to go during term breaks and I couldn't stay any longer than 3 or 4 weeks, or I was going to have to pull our kids out of school to go to America, because no school in Kenya is going to go, oh, so you want to take the first 5 weeks of term 2 off to go to America? Sure, no problem. Here's the homework. No school was going to do that.
No.
So I told him, I said, let's homeschool her for kindergarten, for PP2, and just see how it goes. And by the time she was done with PP2, he was convinced that, okay, we could do this. And I think what convinced him was we had gone to an event, and he and I had been called up to talk at the event. And she suddenly comes up and she goes, Mom, can I pray for everybody? And she just took the microphone, and she was like 4 years old. She was just praying and Ben goes, I couldn't have done that at 4 years old. If that's what homeschooling does, let's do it. And so, with the exception of one term when I was sick and just needed a break, she has always been homeschooled.
Yeah.
And Josh is now in PP2. So it works.
That's good. I mean, it's not being picked up like 5 a.m. to go to school. Kids come back home with a lot of homework. It's something that needs to change in our system. Kids are not supposed to be, they're supposed to leave school, come home. But the idea of, have a lot of homework, it's in the evening, you and your kid, instead of enjoying family time, mnafanya homework. Until 9, anakula, bed.
So you're planning to homeschool them up to which level?
All the way
High school.
Oh, up to high school?
Yeah.
Wow.
Her family has done a lot of homeschooling. So
I have a cousin who homeschooled 2 of her daughters all the way through. They were ice skaters. And
So do you socialize them?
yeah, they live in a neighborhood with 1 million kids, so it would be hard for them not to have kids.
I think everybody is worried about socialization part when it comes to homeschooling.
Yeah.
I think right now they are outside.
Yeah. Oh,
They're outside. The social part has very little to do. Yeye anataka kwenda kucheza. And half of the time, hata unakuta if they are done school maybe at 1 or 2, he'll go outside there, talk to those guys making piki. They'll talk to him like another.
Our kids can socialize with people of all ages.
Of all ages, and that's an added advantage. They get to learn something beyond their own age.
Yeah, they're not intimidated.
By 3 or 4, the rest of the kids are out, so they don't miss on anything.
And we also have the added advantage of flexibility of schedule. Like this week, Grace went to work with him one day, and she learned how to install a toilet.
Oh yeah.
She learned how to install.
You also get to go.
She was doing plumbing work.
My daughter can do a lot of.
Joshua went with him and learned how to lay tile.
Yes.
So they're also learning how to work.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And they're very proud when they can come home and they say, "Mom, I got paid 200 shillings."
She ate all mandazi.
Yeah. And ringos. And ringos.
And now the brother wants to hit her mandazi.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It is
I was reading.
you actually get to teach your child how to manage money early. Because I tell him, you're going to work, I'm going to pay you 50 bob. If you want to eat Ringos, no problem. But if you want to save it, next time you see a bouncing castle somewhere, you can pay it for yourself. Because, you know, when you're taking your kids to somewhere out to play, you give them a choice. Bouncing castle, that's more train, and this. You cannot give all the rides. So if you have your own money, you can go to 4 of them. That's how.
So they're learning to manage their money. They're also learning what hard work is, and they still have time to do school, because when you're teaching one kid, you can get through a lesson fairly quickly. And if they're struggling, you can spend more time on that lesson. And if they get it really quick, then you can move through it really quick.
Yeah.
But if you have 20, 30, 40, 50 kids in your class, number one, you have to teach to the middle of the class, which means half the class doesn't get it and half the class is bored, and only a little bit in the middle is being taught right at their level. Plus, you spend a lot of your day going, Johnny, be quiet. Sam, get your pencil out. Sarah, no, I'm sorry, don't play with your hair. And you spend a lot of time managing the class. I still have to manage my kids, but it's one kid. And so PP1 takes about an hour and a half. 4th, 5th grade takes about 4 hours. By 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm done. I've taught 2 kids school. They're both done. They don't have any homework. And then, you know, they color, they play, they, you know, watch educational stuff on YouTube. They have time talking to the peeky guys downstairs. Josh really likes to do that. So they're getting a lot of varied stuff that's more even than what I can teach them, because they have time.
Yeah. So Bene, what advice do you have for Kenyan men who want to marry or have a relationship with American women, either in the US or here in Kenya?
Just be real. People are the same. When you cut this blood, it's red everywhere. Chinese, whatever it is. The problems that the Americans have are the same problems that Africans have in a different culture. But they're the same problem. We fight about food, right?
Yeah, sometimes.
We it's the same everything. I mean, it's the culture that is different. It's the culture is different. There are people who say, like, I can't stand people from my own tribe. They want to marry outside their tribe because, you know, they have a stereotype. My clansmen are these, they're either unfaithful or they are gold diggers, stuff like that. There's those stereotyping. But people are special as who they really are. And if you're looking to marry in a different culture, people are the same everywhere. The problems are the same. Marital problems are the same. We do have what we call a couples group that we attend. Problem is the same. It's the difference is the culture that is in. And dealing with culture is something that you have to learn. Like, it is not in their culture, you know, to come, you know, and the husband come into the house, you know, you serve them food, you know, bring them food. Like, you know, it's in the microwave, you know, put it in the microwave, serve yourself food. You see, to me, if you're as a man, I was expecting the way I was raised, my mom would serve my dad. In their family, it wasn't like that. So
we all eat dinner at a dinner table.
Yeah, they all ate dinner at a dinner table. We have no dining table. I think my family had one, but ilikuwa ya kufanya homework. Yeah, dining table was for homework. So meaning, just expect a cultural difference which is adjustable. Yes, because the problems are the same.
Wow.
I think recognize that you have to find your own culture.
Yeah,
Because
create your own new culture.
my culture and his culture are different, but our culture is what we created together. And so we've had to figure out what things in our home are going to be the way he grew up, and what things are going to be the way I grew up, and what things are going to be blended. Like, I like to have at least one meal a day at a table. So at breakfast, we all sit around our island and we eat breakfast. But at dinner time, we typically do the Kenyan thing and eat in front of the TV. So we've found the balance there to allow us to negotiate the things. And sometimes those negotiations, are arguments. And sometimes they're just kind of things that I go, it would be really nice if we could do this. And he goes, yeah, okay. And it would be really nice if we could do that. And we go, okay, well, I'll do this and you do that. And we find a place in the middle. But I would say, don't go to America with the intention of that's why I'm going is to marry an American. Because that's, well, okay. I think anybody who travels to another country thinking, if I could just marry an American, everything would be okay. It's like, it puts an awful lot of pressure on whoever the American spouse would be, male or female, to be that savior. My life would be so much better if I could just marry an American. When the reality is, he married an American, and I had a bunch of debt when we got married. We spent the first 2 years of our marriage paying off my debt. And that was, here's this Kenyan man who's moved to America, is trying to make his fortune, and he meets a wife who has 2 million shillings in debt. And he's like, wait a minute. So, but we did it. We worked really hard, and we paid off all of my debt, and we bought a car, paid that off, built a business. So I believe Ben could have done all of those things here or there. In fact, he has done them here. So he didn't come to America with the purpose of getting married. But when he met me, he goes, you know what, I'm ready to get married. And if she's serious and wants to get married too, then this is a good thing. So I think anytime somebody goes, you know what, I'm going to go there to find a spouse, that's asking for trouble. I think, go there for business, go there for school, and if you find someone, great. But don't have that be the reason you go.
They're great people in Kenya too.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah.
So how do people describe your marriage?
Describe our marriage?
Your interracial couple.
They think she's keeping me.
Yeah. Most people think that I'm his. What's the word?
Sponsor?
Not Mbaba, but what's the other word? I'm a sugar mama.
Yes.
There are a lot of people that think that somewhere I must have a whole bunch of money, because we actually had somebody come and ask us for money one day, and Ben's like, I'm sorry, I don't have any money to help you. Because I'm literally flat broke. And at the moment, we had just paid all of our bills for the month. And he'd had nothing in his... And she's like, no. You can't lack 2,000 shillings. And he had to pull out his M-Pesa and show her that he had like 50 shillings in his M-Pesa. And she was like, what? You're married to a Mzungu. And I was like, really? That doesn't mean I have money.
How does that make you feel?
It bothers me sometimes, because I worry that if anything ever happened to him, that there wouldn't be anybody who would help me, because they would see me as an American, they would just assume that I've got money. So that's a worry, but his family would help me, would support me, and we have some good friends, but especially in the first couple of years we were here, that was a real worry I had. I used to tell him, if you die when we have kids or little, I'm going home. I think I've been here long enough that might not be my first thought anymore, but it's taken time to build enough of a network of people who know that I'm not just some rich American who is providing the money that we need, that we really have built everything here together from basically nothing. And I think if I could tell anybody anything, that it would be, don't assume that someone you meet is either rich or poor based on where they're from. You know, I think a lot of Americans have this idea that all immigrants are poor, but that's not necessarily true either. You know, and coming here, first of all, everyone assumes I'm a tourist at first, but then when they realize I live here, they assume I must have money, or that my family does. My family's not rich. So that has been a challenge from time to time. But I solved it with the expedience of saying, Ben, you get to decide who we do and don't help. I'm not going to participate in that discussion.
Because everybody would come thinking that she's the one who has the money. I would actually sit out there and listen to them. I'm like, okay, you can go talk to her. And sometimes she thought it was like, there was one lady who came thinking that she's the one who makes all the money. And that was quite a really sad thing, because, I mean, don't come with the thinking that all Mzungus are rich people. They're not. They live an average life. The way there is someone here suffering, sleeping in you know, under the bridge. There's someone under the bridge in America too, sleeping there. So everything is the same, but different. And
that was his line.
Yes, it's the same but different. Because when I was in America, they thought I was being given grants by the government because I'm an immigrant. Like, they call them what special word? This special group. I don't know. Some grants that were being given. Nobody would believe that I borrowed money to start a business and the business became successful. Stereotypical.
And it goes both ways. I mean, there's people in America that have stereotypes about immigrants, and there's people here who have stereotypes about American immigrants, you know. So it cuts both ways, and I think one of the reasons that I was interested in talking to you was to be another voice.
So what is your dream destination in Kenya and in the world? To start with you.
Actually, I think last year we went to my dream destination. The Mara. You know, I've lived here for 10 years and I've never been to the Mara. I'm like, Ben, we've lived here for a decade. He goes, I've lived here my whole life. I've never been to the Mara. And then for his birthday last year, he decided that we were going to go to the Mara, just the two of us.
How was it?
It was awesome. I have some of the coolest pictures. We had a lion that literally laid down next to the vehicle we were in, leaning up against the tires. And I have pictures looking down at the lion where he's less than 6 feet away from my camera. It was one of the coolest things. We actually saw 5 different groups of lions. And I think the only one of the big 5 that I didn't see was rhinoceros.
Do you have safaris in the US?
Not quite the same
Yellowstone
way.
and
We do have places. We have places like Yellowstone National Park and Grand Canyon, but they don't do like safari tours quite the same way as we do here. Personally, because everybody has a car in America. So if you go on a tour, you're in your own car and whatever. It's more like the self-drive tours that you could go on to here in Nairobi National Park. But the Mara was it was awesome.
I had not gone to the Mara before because I've always, we've seen the animals, but there is something about the pure nature of the animals living in nature that is, you know, brings an awakening of an awakening that how the wild was way before, you know, civilization, because the Mara is just natural as it is.
Yeah.
I actually enjoyed the trip. I did not think I would, but someone told me, just go there, you never know. We even got to change a tire in the middle of the Mara.
We had to change the tire in the middle of the Mara. That was interesting. But we had a really good time. The two of us, we went. We stayed in a really nice safari camp. Had wonderful food, and so it was great. As far as in the world, I don't know. There's so many places I would love to go visit. I would really love to go to. I'd love to go to Sydney, Australia, Tokyo.
Australia.
I'd love to go to Tokyo, Japan. I think going to Paris would have been awesome when I was a teenager. I don't know if I want to go anymore. I would really like to take him with me to go see some of the places I've been already in my life.
Right.
I would like to take him to London. I'd like to go with him up to Amsterdam and to Bruges, Belgium. There's some just really beautiful places that I would love to be able to experience again with him. But I think one of the places we want to go together is India.
Yeah. I would like to go to
Why
India.
India?
We've had
There's no
Like the culture.
the culture, the food.
the food, the culture. One of the first friends I made here
Yes.
in Kenya was a Mohindi.
Yeah.
Very, very good friend of mine. She's actually moved to Canada now, so I don't see her anymore. But I've always loved the people and the food, and I don't know. I just think it would be a really cool place to visit.
There's no much travel restrictions.
Yeah, so
I mean,
I think you have beautiful culture.
Yeah.
they do.
Food.
Yeah, I love Indian
I would
food.
go for the food.
But I have a friend who lives in Ecuador. I would love to go to Ecuador someday and visit him in his home. He was an exchange student that lived at my parents' house when he was in high school, and he and my brother actually have the same birthday. They're twins, birthday twins. So we've stayed in contact with him all these years, and it would be awesome to get to go visit him in Ecuador. But yeah, so in the world would be hard to say which would be my top choice, but I think the Mara was the place that I'm like, because everybody always asks you, have you been to the Mara? And I'm like, now I can say I've been there.
And for an American who is watching this video and they have like plans to come for safaris in Africa or Kenya, tell them something.
You know what?
Then-
Honestly, I would say the first thing you need to do is get to know actual Kenya, not just the touristy Kenya. Because I think one of my biggest blessings in Kenya is that I know Kenyans. You know, my best safari is to get to know Kenyans. Go out to the rural area, meet somebody who's Kenyan, and go to their rural home. Go to a wedding ceremony. Go to a funeral. Because those are real life. The Mara is cool. Going to Nairobi National Park or Nakuru National Park or even Malindi or Mombasa, they're cool. They're not real life. Real life is going to church and watching a deliverance service. Real life is going to a ratio and going, and why are they doing that? What is going on? It's going to a funeral, and even though you don't know the person who's died, being asked to stand up and greet everybody because you're the American. So I honestly think that if you have time, come to Kenya and get to know Kenyans, not just their tourists.
The tourist side of
Because
life.
the tourist side is great, but it's better when you get to know the people.
Yeah.
Because if you get to know the people, they take you to the best nyama choma place.
Yes.
They take you to the little hole in the wall place in Mombasa that serves the most incredible parrotfish.
I remember.
They take you to the little place where you can get the coolest pork, and that's real life Kenya. When you come to Kenya and all you ever see is the tourist spots, you come away with kind of a skewed idea of what
Can I tell them more the story?
Sure.
One day the parents came over and this was in Mombasa. So we had a hotel that we were living in. So I decided to go to a local guy, tell him, you know what, we're fed up with the hotel food. Let's take us to the local joint that has the coolest place. This guy took us to this kibanda that was, locals were eating, and we are the only
There.
the only white people, the tourists there. It had the best food.
This is the kind of place where you
The
don't
dad
go and
liked-
order. You just sit
And
down and they
best
bring you
connection.
food.
Yes.
Yeah.
The same guy took us to, I don't know, where was it? He took us to a certain safari that, not
The
many.
flat bottom boats, the glass bottom boats.
Yes, that places that not every tourist goes, You're like, wow, you should come and know the local people. That way, the local people give you the cool thing,
authentic.
the authentic stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think that would to me be the best trip if you're coming to Kenya. Come and get to know Kenyans.
What's your favorite Kenyan food?
Absolute favorite is probably samosas. But if you're talking meal, I would probably say dengu and chapati.
Dengu chapati. Ugali?
Nope.
Wazungu na ugali.
Don't like
If you would put salt and pepper on your ugali, it would be much better. But Kenyans think that is a complete embarrassment. So.
I remember we used to cook ugali with blue band just for her. Yeah.
No, skuma and ugali is not my favorite thing. We fix it here in the house, but I don't eat on those nights. I fast when we have skuma and ugali. I didn't used to. I ate it for a long time, and I finally just said, you know what? I'm old enough. I don't need to eat things I don't like.
So do you have plans to relocate back to America maybe some days?
No.
No. And we talk about it every once in a while, but not really. We have life here.
Well, there's more life here. I mean, the best things that you'd ever get is time related, and there is time here. Back there is money, but little time.
Freedom.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I love to go back and visit my home country, but I come back here and I realize that here I have the freedom to be a stay-at-home mom. I have the freedom to homeschool my kids because financially we can afford it. I'm not sure we would be able to afford that in the States. So there's things about our life that work for us here that wouldn't work for us back there, that we're happy here. It took me a while. There were times that I would have said, no, please, let's go back. But a decade later, I'm comfortable. It's home.
Yeah.
It's not perfect, but neither was America. And I still love my home country. Don't get me wrong, but this is home. This is where my children are growing. This is where my husband is, and so I'm here. This is home.
Final remarks, maybe.
Me too.
Final remarks? I don't know. I would say find your happy spot. Find your happy spot.
Happy spot.
Yeah. That includes time and money. You don't have to have all the money in the world without time, or a lot of time without money. Just find your spot. That's all.
I think you can be happy anywhere. You have to decide to be present in that place. And even when you're struggling, there's joy in life. You just have to be open to it. If you focus on the struggle and that's all you ever see, then you're going to live a miserable life, no matter where you live. You could live in, a perfect place. You could live in a gorgeous house, but if all you ever see is the things that aren't what you want, you'll be miserable. Or you can live in a little tiny 2-bedroom apartment that's, 500 square feet or less, where there's no closets, and you can sit on your toilet while you take a shower because the shower falls down on the toilet, and you can't walk around your living room because your furniture is so big that there's literally no space to walk through your living room, and you can be happy.
Yeah.
So
it's a choice.
It's a choice, and it's a choice that you're better off making that choice to be happy where you are. It doesn't mean be complacent, but be happy. Be willing to enjoy the life that God's given you, because He has you there for a reason.
What advice do you have about life, maybe to younger generation?
Listen to your elders, because they're not stupid. They actually know what they're talking about. They've already lived the life that you're struggling with, and they have good advice. It may not always be appropriate technologically anymore, because technology may have changed, but how we treat each other in life, that hasn't changed. You know, learning how to be kind and generous and helpful, and all of the things that you can learn from your elders, it's just as true today as it was 50 years ago. And if I could tell anybody anything, it's don't discount the older generation, because they have a lot to teach us.
Yeah.
And the older I get, the more I realize that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's true.
You can save someone's whole year by just advising them the right way. Basically, listening to the old is the same as not reinventing the wheel.
Yeah.
And yours, life advice you have?
A life advice to young people or someone who's younger, I would say live the experiences. Make sure you have no regret by the time you get old. Because you could easily, the worst thing you could do is regret when you're old. To live life in full without any regrets at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, because regrets are very expensive.
For married couples in particular.
Go ahead.
You need to be going in the same direction financially.
Yes.
Don't the wife go buy a piece of property here and the man go buy a piece of property here and,
Yes.
and say, oh, well, I bought the food, so you need to pay me back for the food. And no, the money that he brings into the family and the money that she brings into the family all should go into one pot.
Yeah.
And you budget the family out of the one pot. And that includes saying, okay, the man needs this much for going to get his hair cut, and the woman needs this much for going to make her hair, and we need this much for school fees, and we need this much for that. But it all comes out of one pot. And that's something Ben and I have always done, is even when we were in the States and I had a job where I was making good money, and he had a business, or even when we first got married, he just had a job, we always put all of our money into one bank account.
Yes.
And paid for everything out of one bank account and worked together. And it's how we managed to pay off all of our debt that I had when we went into the marriage at the beginning of our marriage. It's the way we've built our business. It's the way we've been able to build a scholarship fund. Too many families here, especially the wife's money is hers and the husband's money is his, and why pay school fees and you don't do this and you don't do that. Well, you know, you're a family. It should all be
the same goal,
have a similar goal, be working towards it together.
And I think you should always, as a family, teach your children to love one another. There's a lot that is going on that families are not taught to love their own siblings. I mean, how many families could pick up a phone and call their brothers and tell them, hey, I'm in a hard spot, send me 10,000. There are very few in Kenya. One thing I am glad about, and I took from my family, is that we should love one another. Right now, us as children in my family are very close, and it's a very rare thing. I did not know how rare it is, but I think if there's something I inherited from my parents that is not property, then it's really worth, it's the love for the members of my other siblings. I think it's something I'm trying to teach to my children, and I think it's something worth, teaching.
Yeah, I would agree.
Wait. As an individual, how would you want us to remember you? Because at the end of the day, we are living.
I always ask her that question.
Answer this question.
I always ask that question.
What do you want your legacy? I don't know. I want to be remembered as a woman who loved God, who raised her children to love God, who was a wife, a good wife, and a good mother, and a good friend. My dream was to be a wife and a mom.
Wow.
And
you've lived
I
it.
have my dream. So if I can be remembered for doing a good job at those things, then that's good enough.
That question, we always talk about it,
Yes.
but this is how we asked it. What would you like written on your tombstone when you die?
True story.
Tombstone.
Okay.
That's block thingy. To me, I would like it written, he loved people. That's it.
Love for people.
Yes.
Wow. Ben, tell your wife something sweet and something you've never told.
What is
What have you never told me?
I don't know.
Talk to her. Give her some sweet words.
I will not lack something to say that is lovely. Thank you for forever believing in me. In whatever circumstances that you have gone through, raising children and all that, you have always believed in me, despite us having cultural differences, being of different ages, but you always believed me. To me, that meant a lot. And for a man, it is equal to being respected. And that's one thing that is lovely about you.
And you, Susan?
The day we met, I knew that you were somebody who had a plan for his life. I didn't know where I might fit into that. I had no idea that I might fit into it then. But that plan you had for your life, that struck me, and it intrigued me. And the fact that you still have a plan, even though we would make adjustments to it, you never lost the focus. And I love that when you're struggling mentally with am I on the right path, that's when God gives me comfort. And when I'm struggling, that's when God gives you comfort. And we've always been a team, and we work through things together. And I love you for that. I love you that we've always worked it out. Even when we've had really tough times, we've faced it together. I want to face the rest of our lives together.
Cool. Yeah.
So, guys, it has been good having you on this set.
Yeah.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to meet you once again.
You're welcome.
So you can tell guys, thank you for watching us. Maybe give yourself a shout out.
Oh yeah! Thank you for watching. We have a guest house here in Tasia called Tumaini Guest House. If you need a place to stay or a great place to stay, you can find us on Facebook, Tumaini Guest House Embakasi. We have a YouTube channel, me and the kids, called These Curious Kids, that we have a few episodes up on. We need to do a few more.
Yeah.
And our scholarship program is TLMKE.carrd.com.
Your guest house is like a Airbnb or
It's just a bed only.
Okay.
Yeah, bed only.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. We actually serve the people who, in case you're coming from the rural area and you're late and you need to travel tomorrow, they live here.
Yeah.
In case there is your mother-in-law has come and your house is small, we host you here.
Okay.
So that's pretty much. All right.
Bye. Thank you for watching this session.
Yes, thank you. We went through 2 whole batteries today.
Like 2 hours. 2 hours, right?
Yeah. Wow.
Faith would still be here if she was waiting for you guys to finish.
Oh Lord.
She was waiting for like an hour so you guys
No, she was
so
waiting.
she could come in
she
and
was-
get the bag.
She was waiting. Oh.
Yeah, I'm glad she finally did.
Okay.
I told her she should just try instead of just sitting
It's
there.
on.
Subscribe. Like and subscribe.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Hey.
You know what? You need to charge that light and the other one.
Both lights need to be put on
So
the
you can
chargers.
enjoy your
Yeah, turn the fan back on.